What do you do if you get building permits to build a 4-story apartment complex, but you decide instead to build a 4-story department store and cut out several structural members in order to make escalators, but your construction company says they won't do it because it's an unsafe decision? Well, if your name is Lee Jun, you fire them and hire a new construction company that will do it. In 1987, the Sampoong group started construction on the Sampoong department store. It was originally supposed to be an apartment complex, but they decided at the last minute they were going to change it to a department store, and in order to do so, they took out several structural members in the center of the structure to put in escalators. In addition, they shrank the structural members from 31 inches to 24 inches and made them 11 feet apart so that they could maximize floor space for as much merchandise as possible. In addition, they added a 5th floor restaurant and then put 3 15-ton air conditioners on the roof, which made an already overstressed building even more overstressed. And then, later on, when those air conditioners were so loud and were causing complaints from nearby buildings, they were moved to the other side of the building, but they weren't picked up and moved with a crane, they were simply dragged across the roof, which created cracks. But you see, the problem was when they built that 5th floor, they didn't align the columns supporting the 5th floor with the rest of the columns in the building. So when they dragged those air conditioners across, it was essentially sitting directly on an unsupported column from the bottom. Then in 1995, more cracks started appearing in the 5th floor ceiling. But the response to this was to take all of the merchandise that was there and take it down to the basement. On the morning of June 29, 1995, significantly more cracks started to appear in the ceiling on the 5th floor. The response to management to these cracks was to shut down parts of the 5th floor, and that was it because they didn't want to lose the number of people that were in the building and the revenue that came with it. At about 1 p.m., loud bangs started to emit from the 5th floor, and the entire floor was eventually closed, but still no evacuation order was made. Not long after that, a board of directors meeting was called, and it was basically said that the building was going to collapse. They needed to call evacuation. However, Lee Jun absolutely refused to because they would lose revenue. At 5 p.m., the 5th floor ceiling started to sink, but they still refused to close the store. Finally, at 5:52 p.m., the entire store collapsed, pancaking down on top of itself. In total, 502 people died in the collapse, with over 900 injured, making it the deadliest peacetime disaster in South Korean history. Lee Jun was arrested and charged with criminal negligence. During the trial, he said his main concern was not only that the collapse harmed his customers, but it caused great financial damage to his company. He would be found guilty and would serve 7.5 years in prison for his crimes. His son, the CEO of the company, was also tried for accidental homicide and bribery and received a 7-year sentence. Several other officials would be charged with bribery and sentenced to several years in jail.